Well, Anton, thank you so much for joining us on the Born Offside show. We've spoken to your brother before, so it feels like this is the Ferdinand brother show at this point. It's amazing. So thank you so much. It's obviously an honour to talk to you. Given your connection to West Ham, you're in fact wearing a West Ham jersey right now, which I love. But they've just come off the back of that incredible Europa Conference League win, that winner from Bowen. What a game. Can you talk us through what it felt like seeing them win that final, but also what were the celebrations like?
Sadly, I couldn't be at the game because my Ferdinand football group, which is a football centre for young kids, they had a presentation night, so I had to be there. But I watched it at the venue Players Lounge where we was, and the atmosphere in there was unbelievable. But for me personally, I sit here lucky that I was able to witness my club, my team win a major trophy, and to do that with my son, watch it with my son, you know, and watch the way he celebrated. When Jared scored, his top was off, he was swinging it around, he was absolutely buzzing. I didn't go quite as mad for obvious reasons. I couldn't do that. I couldn't take my top off and start running around. But just the emotion to see West Ham, you know, and my love for the club runs very, very deep. I went from a fan watching Rio play there to a player, you know, which is indescribable. And a fan now that I'm retired. And there's a lot of people who never got to see West Ham win a trophy, but I can say that I'm one of them. And to do that with my son, the words just can't describe how that feels.
Are the team still celebrating? What's the conversation like at the moment amongst players?
As you can see, I'm still wearing my it ain't come off of me since last Wednesday. So
I want to get your thoughts on that viral West Ham fan, the little 10-year-old who is actually, I think he got a little BT deal or something. He made a cameo in the advert, man. What are your thoughts on him? Have you met him? Anything like that?
No, I've not met him yet. I'm sure I will at some point. You know, train station this way, far that way.
Yeah, legend.
It just shows like the West Ham fan base. You know, it embraces all. And when you speak about the club, the way that young boy spoke about the club, or the way ex-players and players that play for the club speak about the football club, but even people that work there, the way they speak about the club, it lets you know that claret and blue runs through your veins. It ain't just a facade, because it's not just here. Everybody who's associated with the football club, fans, players, staff, no matter what age, no matter what race you are, you know, it doesn't matter. No matter what gender, it runs through your brain, it runs through your veins, and people absolutely take the club anywhere they go.
Yeah, that's so special. I was very lucky actually to get to a West Ham game at London Stadium last year, and the vibe was just incredible. I absolutely loved it. It was an amazing experience. But we have to ask you about that FA Cup final that you played back in 2006, because you have been able to play a final with West Ham. And so if anyone knows what that feeling would have been like for the current squad heading into that final, it's you. Do you think that there's this massive weight off the shoulders of the club now that they have won such a big trophy after such a long time, since 1980? It's a long time, so it must feel amazing.
Yeah, it does feel amazing. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and lie. I wish I was one of them players who was able to lift a trophy for West Ham United, especially being a fan. And obviously missing the last penalty that ended up losing us the game wasn't nice. It still haunts me now, if I'm being honest. But the pressure going into that game, it was good pressure. You know, the fans don't say, "Oh, we have to win this." They're buzzing that they're in a final. That's what it felt like. I felt more pressure the year before in the playoff final than I did in the FA Cup final. You know, because when it was the playoff final to get back into the Premier League, the fans were like, "No, we have to win this. Like, you have to win it." And I also knew that if we didn't win it, the club could have been in financial trouble at that point in time. So the pressure for that game was much, much greater than the FA Cup final, the final year. You know, the fans were happy to be there. We weren't going there to make up the numbers, and that's how we played the game. We played the game on the front foot. We got in the lead, you know, and everyone had written us off before the game had even started. But we gave a good account of ourselves, and if it wasn't for that man, Steven Gerrard, I'll be sitting here with an FA Cup final medal.
Yeah,
it's iconic. It really is.
Himself. I wanna ask you about that situation where you step up to take a penalty, and you put yourself. You got to have big balls anyway to put yourself in that situation. From a mental perspective, how did you overcome it? And talk us through those, when you're going up there and it is a huge deal, like you have to score this, I just want to know how you dealt with it before and then after.
I think what people don't understand, when you're guys, just think for 120 minutes, I've played in an environment that is noisy. So there was 90,000 people, 85, 90,000 people there. Yeah. And that noise is directed to the pitch. So it's noisy. For 120 minutes, you hear noise. And then when you're going up for a penalty, it's silent.
Don't hear anything.
And that's what I remember it as. It might not have been like silent as I was walking up, but when I put the ball down on the actual penalty spot, it was utter silence. And I was like, what the hell? Like, I wasn't ready for that. I'll be honest, I wasn't ready. I'd never taken a professional penalty before that, but I wasn't ready for that. And when I put the ball down, all I heard was, remember the Nokia? The Nokia ringtone.
The ringtone.
No way.
I swear I heard that, and I was like, and I almost like forgot where I was going, and then had to refocus. But yeah, I wasn't actually meant to take a penalty. There was players who were up before me in training that were taking penalties and scoring in training. But when you get into a pressure environment like that, people sometimes go, I don't want to take one. And
yeah, it's hard, isn't it,
five. Yeah, we had 5 penalty takers. One of them weren't on the pitch, which was Marlon Harewood. But someone else is stepping for him. But out of the 5 that had gone through, one of them said, I don't want to take one. I won't mention his name, but he said, I won't take one. So Alan Pardew was looking around like, we need a 5th one. Who's going to take the 5th one? And I just thought to myself, you know what? I'm a West Ham fan. I love this football club, and I owe it to the fans to be the one to say, okay, I'll take the pressure, I'll take it, and I'll put my hand up and take the penny, which is what I've done. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, but as you said, I put myself forward. I showed that I had a player, and I stepped up. It wasn't meant to be. But I've since then seen my team win a European Championship, so I'm happy. But to go on to the second part of your question, it's taken me a long while, if I'm honest, to get over that. I'm hoping winning this now will allow me to rest a bit more. As I said, I still wake up at times, and I have woken up at times thinking about the penalty. But that's life, I guess. That's the way my life was written. It was meant to be that, and now I'm standing here and sitting here and talking to you guys as a West Ham fan and an ambassador, with a smile on my face because my team won a European Championship.
It's amazing because we asked you if you think there's a weight off the shoulders of the team now that you guys have won a trophy of that caliber, but to be honest, it sounds like there's a weight off your shoulders personally as well, which I think goes to show how much that win means to the fan as well, because no doubt it added that level of pressure to you, the fact that you are a fan first and foremost, because the pressure's there as a player, but when you're so invested in the win as a fan, it must mean so much. And you mentioned that kind of relegation battle that you had when you played with West Ham, and you were obviously part of that great escape story of West Ham. The relegation story is something that comes up a lot in our podcast. People find it really interesting because it is something that we don't have here in the Australian system. We don't have that promotion relegation at this stage. What are the feelings like when you head into a relegation battle of that nature, and you know that the result of that game determines so much for that following season? Can you just talk us through what that means?
Yeah, it's when you talk about pressure, that's pressure, because if you're a player who speaks to everyone around the football club, the cleaners, the kit men and women, the chefs, you know, the people that ain't on bonuses if you go up or go down, you know, or if their money does deduct if they go down, because obviously the football club's in a different financial space if you move out of the Premier League. When you speak to the people around the club who it really does affect massively, you get a different perspective on it. And I was one of them guys. When you're brought up in the West Ham family, you treat everyone as your own. If you work for the football club, you're treated as a family member, and you speak to everybody. And I'm sure every graduate from the West Ham Academy would be alike. So that pressure to make sure that not just the people that you work with day in, day out at the training ground and who work for the football clubs, not just them, but the fans, you know, they make it known, they make it very, very clear that if you're not playing well, they make it known that they don't want to be in the Championship. They want to stay in the Premier League, which is everybody's dream, is to stay in the Premier League and be in the Premier League, and that we are a Premier League football club. You know that the minute you sign for the football club, if you come in, or the minute you go into the first team as a young player. And the pressure that you have in that scenario, like going to Manchester United on the last day of the season, you know, it don't get bigger than that in that time.
Yeah.
You know, that's when that they had the big guns there at that time. You know, so going there on the last day of the season, having to win to stay up was daunting. It was, but it was enjoyable. You know, this is what athletes like myself, when we played, this is what you worked hard for as a kid, is to be in big games. You know, and it don't get any bigger than that, especially when you're fighting for your life. You know, you have to dig in. There's going to be times in the game where you're not doing well, when you're under pressure, you know, and you've got to stand up and be counted, and it isn't a game for the weak.
For sure. Let's move on to the current players. One of my favorite players, Declan Rice. He's been a great leader off the pitch. There's rumours are, you know, he could possibly join Arsenal. Any chance you guys keep him, and do you think he's going to go down as considered a legend of the club?
I think I'll start with the last bit first. I think in terms of Declan, he's one of three. You know, he's in the company of the great late Bobby Moore and Billy Bonds. They're the other two captains who have lifted trophies for our football club, and he'll be spoken about in that ilk. He'll be spoken about in that company because he's led the team to winning a cup. So he's spoken about with them, which tells you he's a legend of the football club. What he's done for the football club since he came into the first team has been phenomenal. Bearing in mind he was a centre back, you know, and he transformed into a centre midfielder and one of the best in the world, in my opinion, at what he does. Would we as a football club want to keep him? Would the fans want to keep him? Of course we do, you know, but it don't always work out like that. He's been very, very respectful, and you have to admire the way that he's gone about it when speaking about it. Been very, very mature in his answers, you know, and I'll say the same thing as what he said. He's got 2 years left on his West Ham contract. He's a West Ham player. Until he's told otherwise, that's what he will be.
Yeah, you can't argue with that. And he's definitely a player that is so respected here in Australia as well. But I think the journey of West Ham in general is one that a lot of us Aussies have been watching. And it's just amazing to see. the likes of Declan Rice leading them to that win. And speaking of Australia, West Ham are headed to Perth in July. So you guys will be gracing us down in Australia. Is that something that you will be joining the team on? Have you ever been to Australia? Rio told us that he personally loved Australia and that he would be willing to pack up and live here at some point. We'll keep our fingers crossed that he might actually do that. But tell us, have you been to Australia? And if you have, what did you like about it? If not, what are you looking forward to?
No, I haven't been to Australia, unfortunately. I'm hoping that I may be on the tour with the team. That's down to the club. But yeah, I'd love to come to Australia. That's one of my bucket lists, is to get over to Australia at some point in my lifetime. And just embrace the culture out there. I've heard it's very multicultural and very chilled, which is what I like. But I'm hoping that at some point I do get over there to meet the West Ham fans who live in Australia. I know that our games are on the 15th of July and the 18th of July. They're playing Perth Glory and Tottenham Hotspur. I think both games will be fantastic. I think when you're speaking about West Ham and saying that Declan Rice is well sought after and well respected in Australia, there's not just him. You know, there's Jared Bowen, who scored the winner, who's going to go down as a legend at the football club as well. You know, Kurt Zuma's another big player who played well. Who's played well this season. You know, these are players that I'm sure the Australian West Ham fans would love to see. Mikel Antonio, another one, who's a fantastic player. You know, I think the Australian fans having some of the English fans over with them, I think will heighten their love for the football club. You know, and I look forward to hearing. If I'm not there, I look forward to hearing what the Aussie West Ham fans think once they've sat with the English fans, to see how the English fans really take to their football team and embrace their football team. I'm looking forward to seeing if they think there's a difference and how much they loved it and embraced it.
Yeah, amazing. And before we let you go, we've obviously had some questions from our listeners sent in. They wanted to know who's the more competitive player growing up, you or Rio. I'm sure you get that all the time.
You know, we were both competitive. He's 7 years older than me, so like there was a massive age difference. You know, but we were both competitive. I think when I was really young, he used to put me in the front room of our flat and just smashed the ball at me until my mum or dad came in and said that was enough. I was crying. But as I got older, he really started mentoring me when I was in terms of how to play the game and how to win and lose. He never allowed me to win. If I was playing 1v1 with one of my mates who was my age, he would always go and goal. He'd let me. I would score 2 or 3 off the bat, and then he would save every shot after. He'd save it and let my friend score and go ahead of me, to the point where I'm like crying my eyes out, saying, "Why are you letting him win for?" You know, and he'd be saying to me, "Anton, shut up. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna fold, or are you gonna keep working hard? What are you gonna do?" Yeah. Now, as I got older, I understood why he was doing it. You know, he was breeding resilience in me. You know, and that will to never lose in me. You know, and as much as we were competitive with each other, there was also lessons to be learned from my older sibling, which I'm forever grateful for.
It's clear that he played that older brother role for you, but a kind of footballing mentor as well, because sometimes, you know, it is those tough lessons that at the time put you at the point of tears, but then you look back and reflect and think how much those skills he taught you actually benefited your football career. Do you feel like he did play a really big role in getting you to the level that you got to in your footballing career?
Yes and no. I think for me, people won't understand my journey because they've not had a brother who's the best in your sport, in your
Yeah.
position. So having a brother, having a sibling who was the best centre back in the world for in my opinion for a few years, or many years I should say, and we played the same position and always being compared to him. I was compared to him from the age of 9 years old, and I'd hear people say, "You'll never be as good as him. You're rubbish." From the age of 9. But the grounding that I had from my parents and from him, as I was just talking about, allowed me to brush that off and take it with a pinch of salt. So in that sense, it helped me. And obviously, when I became a footballer, a professional footballer in the first team at West Ham, being able to ring him and ask for his guidance, and whoever I was playing against, asked him what it was like and how does he think I should go up against this player, was obviously invaluable information. And I had that at the end of the phone with Rio being the best. But the hindrance that I had on me was I only ever got one chance. You know, I knew I was going to get an opportunity because of my name, you know, and I knew people wanted to see another Ferdinand because of how good he was. But I also understood and knew straight away that I had got one chance at it and I had to be ready. So as a youngster, I worked harder than everybody because I needed to be ready when that opportunity came, you know. And if I did go on the pitch and I was rubbish in the first 5 minutes, people were straight away, he'd never be as good, he's rubbish. He's not a Ferdinand. So I carried that pressure everywhere I went. So to have Rio as my brother, it was a hindrance at times, but it was a blessing at times. And more for my mum and my dad and my family, to have two sons or two brothers that have played at the heights of the English Premier League, you know, as a family, we're lucky, but we deserve it because that was from the ground and the hard work that we all put in.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a, I don't think people realize how, you know, maybe people outside of England don't realize, you know, how hard that is to have two people playing the Premier League from the same family, let alone like one, you know, that is, you know, that's an achievement in itself. So it would have been hard, but you would have had goods and bads, you know. So it's interesting to hear that perspective, because I feel like not a lot of people have heard that perspective, because people just go, oh, like he's just Rio, you know, Rio's brother, or you should be as good as Rio, but Rio is literally one of the best in the world, as you say. To have,
what are you trying to say? I was rubbish. It sounded like trying to say I was rubbish.
I'm saying Rio is Rio. You know what I mean?
I'm just watching Olan trying to dig himself out of that hole.
Digging my grave just a little bit. To be fair, Rio looked at my highlights, Anton. I don't know if you saw that. And he said I was all right. He said I was pretty decent.
Okay. Well, how comes you didn't make it?
Exactly. We're not gonna go there.
Okay.
Yeah, Anton, I think you're slightly more qualified to speak on that stuff than. Thank you so much for joining us on the Born Offside show. Hopefully you get to Australia next month or at some point, and when you do, please come and join us on the couch at the show so we can have a longer chat and get to know you a bit better. But it's been awesome to speak to you. Congratulations on the success of West Ham, and I hope the celebrations continue, and it's just the start of many more trophies to come for you guys.
Thank you very much, and if I do come, I'll definitely come and sit down on the sofa.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Anton. Appreciate it, bro.